we can't just be sitting back waiting on government to give us some dollars to do something that they're going to dictate how we do it. What has to happen is that we got to develop the strategies that come from coalition building, come from us learning what each other's skill sets are, what kind of things we do best, and then playing ball like that. The stakes are too high for us not to do that. I mean, for us to keep on trying to do the perfect program, that's not going to work. We have to look at what the needs are and then try to build it up accordingly to what the needs are. And not just think that we got the answer. You got to be willing to sit on people's porch. You got to be willing to eat bad chicken every once in a while, you know, and drink Kool-Aid, whatever else. Because otherwise, we're going to keep on doing the same stuff, and the other man keeps winning.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I think what I heard you, if I can summarize what I heard, is the one thing, you got to go to the people, right? We can't expect folks to come to us. And then on top of that, as far as the funding, right, sometimes we got to make sure we address the need. Okay. Did I get that to you?
Yeah, you got it right.
All right.
You got it, my man.
Okay. Thank you for that, sir. The next person, Mr. Quinton Johnson. Anti-violence efforts often fall into the trap of either demonizing black youth or framing them as powerless victims. How can we create narratives that center black youth as powerful agents of change without perpetuating savior complexes?
The integral part of it is definitely making sure that we add them into our foundation and the building blocks of what we're making. How do you empower somebody that feels voiceless often? Let me go back into the question. Can you say the first part of the question again?
Yes, sir. Anti-violence efforts often fall into the trap of either demonizing black youth or framing them as powerless victims.
Our young folks are demonized in and outside of our communities also. The village is gone, and y'all, not y'all, including all of us, are scared of our young people in a lot of spaces where we could be learning from them. So it's not demonized by people that are building the programs necessarily. It's not the man or anything other than our communities. If we start with the mindset of we won't demonize ourselves, I think that will make a lot of progress, for one. Two, we look at them as victims a lot of times also. I'm connected to a lot of young folks with this through mentoring, working with some of the programs with people in this space also. We think of a lot of our young folks as victims, and also pour on a lot of perspectives that make them feel like they're victims as well. So us getting away from the mindset before we expect anybody else to do it is definitely pivotal, as well as adding young folks to, if your organization has a board or any building that your organization is doing, making sure you're plugging in young folks to be the eyes and the ears. I'm 42. I can't be 14. I can't be 12. You know what I'm saying? That's dead, done, and over with. Do y'all know what Riz is?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You didn't learn it from nobody but somebody under 20 years old. You feel me? So the era of me being the cool, tough guy is gone. I don't even want to keep up. So I need to be learning from somebody who I plan to build the work for. So the target audience is black men and even young women ages, what is it now, 13 to 25, the highest of gun violence. Are we including them into building our programs and the pieces of our program that are supposed to impact these folks? Are we including them in what we do? Or do we build the program and tell them to come in, sit down, and shut up, and when they don't fit that mold, we kick them out? So, time.
So I feel like everybody on this panel has done this before, right? And so to your point, I want to make sure that I heard you. Part of it is making sure that we frame the message. Let's not frame our young people as just these folks out here just doing all type of crime and crazy acts. But the other piece I heard you say, and I think this is important, for folks who are working with young people, let's make sure that we include them in the process of developing and implementing the program. And I want to add one more thing to what you do. You know, you and I, we both share interests, right, as gun enthusiasts. And you may not know this, but about 15 years ago, we started a program called the Rites of Passage. And in that program, we had young black males and we took them camping, we did all this with them, right? And one of the things we did, we also took them deer hunting. And yeah, and so before you go deer hunting though, we had to have a gun safety day. Well, when I told folks in the community what we were gonna do, you know, one of the responses I got from a couple of moms, you're gonna teach them how to kill. And I think that goes to that narrative of, yeah, y'all clap? My bad, I'm not leaving enough time for the clapping, man. We gotta make sure I do that too, right? We gotta make sure we applaud this information that we're hearing. Also, I put some pen, pencils, and paper on the table in the event that you have some questions, and we have some more time, or you have a follow-up. There's some paper right there so that you can jot that down. The next person that I am going to go to is Mr. C.J. Sharp. And Carter. See, Sharp Futures. I'm gonna get it together. All right.
You was in the ballpark.
Thank you. Horseshoes. Mass incarceration and the school to prison pipeline disproportionately targets Black youth, funneling them from classroom to cells. How can we address the systemic failures in education and criminal justice to break this cycle and create pathways to empowerment instead?
You know, that's a very robust question. And I think the simplest answer starts with the home.
Okay.
You know, our families have been decimated. I'm blessed. My grandparents have been married for 50 plus years on my father's side. On my mother's side, 40 plus years. My parents were married for 20 plus years. The family structure is non-existent in today's day and age. And then that leads to, especially as it relates to young men, not knowing who they are when they don't have a family structure. One of the things that I've learned, I'm a barber by trade, so I have a barbershop on 7th and Berry. I had a barbershop at Newburgh Middle School for the last 4 years. We just opened up a barbershop in Tate Street Middle School in Lexington. And then we're building a barbershop in the West End Boys School. So a lot of people don't realize, but we as Black people, we don't control anything in this country. The only thing we have control of is the barbershop and the beauty salon. That's the only institutions that we control. And to have the ability to actually install that into a school holds a lot of weight, because what it is that I do when I'm trying to talk to youngsters is trying to educate them on who they are. A lot of people have heard the saying that dogs age in cycles of 7. But people don't realize that we as humans age in cycles of 7. The first 7 years of our life are our developmental ages. It's the most important years of your life. Everything that happens to you in those first 7 years are going to predict on where you're going to end. Of course, when you turn 14 is when you hit puberty. And then when you turn 21 in law, that's when you become majority. That's the term. Minority means a child. So when they call us minorities in law, that's what they're calling us. They're calling us children, because the root word of minority is a minor. But when you turn the age of 21 in law, you become the majority. So a lot of the young men that we encounter, they don't know who they are. They don't know the power that they possess. They don't know how powerful their minds are. And then they don't know the history of Kentucky as it relates to Black folks. I'm pretty sure a lot of you here haven't read the Library of Congress in their national archives. In the 1700s, there was an article that was written where outside of Lexington, in the Paris area, in 1787, I'm sorry, they actually found a catacomb of 2,000 mummies in Lexington, Kentucky. It's in the National Archive. 2,000 mummies here in Kentucky in the Mammoth Cave system. Mammoth Cave, of course, is the largest cave system in the world. And they found 2,000 mummies, and then they destroyed everything, turned everything into dust. Imagine when I tell this story to the young ones about them finding mummies, Egyptian mummies, finding hieroglyphs, finding monuments in this cave system right here in Kentucky. It makes you think of the name Kentucky. It sounds like King Tut, doesn't it? Kentucky right here. It's a very powerful place. But as it relates to the mass incarceration of our youngsters, from the classroom to the prison, I see it every day. At our barbershop on 7th and Berry, we're in the most crime-infested part of Louisville. Cut a couple police officers, cut a couple firefighters, have some ambulance individuals that I cut. And on a weekly basis, I hear a tragic story of a young man who's committed murder, who's OD'd, or who's done something to throw their lives away. And I actually had a conversation, what's today, Thursday? On this past Tuesday, I had a youngster, his name's Kingston. He's a freshman at Fern Creek Middle School. I cut his hair at Newburgh for the last 3 years. And he comes to the barbershop and I cut him. His 8th grade year, he was suspended 10 times. At Fern Creek in his first semester, he's been suspended 6 times. And the unfortunate thing is he doesn't have a father in his household. His dad is incarcerated, locked up for 15 years. And his mom always calls me and says, can you talk to him? Can you please talk to him? That's the missing component in this mass incarceration, school to prison, is there's an absence of us as black men. I was telling Sean that Albert and I went to my son's pep rally at the West End Boys School, and we counted 5 men at the whole entire pep rally. If not us, then who? And you know, that's the mindset that I've taken, and that's why I've established Sharp Futures as a nonprofit. We were established in March as a means of trying to have a real outreach and a real setting up a real foundation with these young men, because once they hear a black man speak and they can relate with us, we've already made that connection where we can establish trust, and that's the most important thing when it comes to us as black men, as black folks, trying to reestablish our family unit.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Also, I want to make sure I heard you. One of the main themes I heard in what you just shared is that we are missing our family component. And you are showing up in such a way that you are filling in some of those gaps when you go talk to these families, some of these boys. So did I hear some of what you said?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you for the work that you're doing.
Appreciate it.
You can clap. This is an instant clap moment. Okay, this is for Mr. Stephen Edwards. I appreciate how you said we don't have any information on it, then we got the information. You see all the beautiful work that you're doing. Hunger is a hidden driver of many challenges in our community, including violence. How does food insecurity impact violence, and what role can access to nutritious meals play in creating a safer, healthier community?
As my brother CJ said, it boils down to a lack of control, right? So basically, we don't control our food, and our food controls us, right? So when people have an opportunity to, when we depending on outside sources, outside is I always tell my kids and people who listen to me that it's absurd to me for us to rely on the people who we say captured us and have no good ideals for us, good plans for us, for us to rely on them for our education and for our food. Right? And that's what we've been doing for so many years. So first thing is initially getting food out to families who are in need, right? But creating a sustainable system to where we control our food. We control the mindset, we control what we eat. There's a lot I started gardening about 4 years ago, and over those 4 years, it's been a lot of stuff that I learned about it as far as like mental health, right? Gardening is excellent for mental health. Getting out there around, we'll say, high risk part of town, right? And a lot of times they'll come over and people just come and talk to me and they're like, I got so much on my mind. I'll talk to them, we'll start weeding the garden. And by the time they get through weeding that little section, they're okay because they've been connected back to earth, they've grounded, they had an opportunity to see, they asked me questions about, I didn't know this is where greens came from, I didn't know this is what Brussels sprouts look like, you know, because we don't even know what most of our food look like coming from. So like one of the things that I've been encouraging, and I've been talking to Dr. Woods and some other people about trying to create is, I want to try to create more backyard gardens just for our community, because when we control our food, we control our mindset, we control what we eat, we know what's going into us, and we have an opportunity to get those secondary values that just being out in the garden, the grounding, the being able to control our own economics. Food, agriculture is one of the things that they did, that has happened to us over the past, is that as African Americans, we have shied away from agriculture because of slavery. I'll just put it like that. You know what I'm saying? And realistically, that's the most important thing for us, is for us to control our own agriculture. So I'm asking people to put gardens in backyards. If you got water in a pitcher, we can grow something. Grow herbs, make essential oils, create infrastructure. Everything that we have owned, everything that we build comes from the ground, right? So until we as a people start taking agriculture back and understand what it means to our culture, then we'll always be under the control of somebody else. Because if you can't eat, you always talk about not biting the hand that feeds you. That only counts when you can't feed yourself. You see what I'm saying? This is, over these last couple of years, just being out in the streets and working directly. I came from JCCS. I worked with JCCS for 13 years as a special education teacher and a mental health counselor. And so when I would work with families and I would see different houses, going to different houses, and it's the domestic violence or whatever the situation is, I would always tell the parents, there's two things that you can do to get out of the situation. Figure out how to feed yourself and figure out how to defend yourself. And once you figure out those two things, then people can't touch you, right? It creates your own autonomy. So it's directly related to the street violence or whatever, because when you're in a sense of hopelessness, when you feel like that you don't have food, access to food, when people's telling you you don't have access to food, and it's not a food insecurity situation, it's just food apartheid, right? It's a systematic. So when we allow the system to dictate what we can eat, what healthy foods we can eat, we have access to a lot of our mental health issues come with just the foods that we eat. Right, a lot of the things that we have going on in our community come with the poison that we put in us every day. So the most important thing I say is for us to take control over our food systems. If you can't grow, donate some money to somebody else who can grow. Support somebody else who can grow. But we need to take over our own food systems. We need to take over those, and I think that right there will reduce a lot of the crime in the community just based off of mental health, access to healthy food, and all that stuff. So it's just...
I definitely appreciate that. And I love how what I heard you saying, there's no cavalry coming. So we need to make sure we take care of ourselves. So I definitely appreciate that. Do you do any work with Kentucky State University?
I have worked with them, with the extension office.
Let's talk after this, see what I can do to support what you're doing. All right, so thank you for that. Insert clap. Yeah. All right, so now we're going down the line. You know, the thing about this, I can't even, act like I'm going to speak to somebody else, we're going in order, right? So you already know what we're coming to. Ms. Nicole Hayden, what makes youth programming truly effective in preventing violence? What do young people in our community need most to feel supported, safe, and seen?
I know I'm going to answer that question. I know I got 5 minutes, but I just want to pay homage to the people that are in this space today. Like, seriously, if you could just raise your hands if you do youth programming, because I don't know if everybody knows who does what and stuff like that. So before we leave, please make sure you reach out to these people, even if we allow a space before the panel ends, just so that people can say exactly what they do. In terms of youth and feeling like what they need, I feel like creating a safe space where they can be seen and heard. That's truly important in youth programming. In terms of, and what we do at 50/50 Mentoring is we provide mentorship, skill building, and community engagement. And so we provide these spaces in primarily 3 different neighborhoods. So when we talked about community are coming together, I just want to acknowledge some of the people that are on this panel, who are mentors of our program, who have been mentors of our program, are artists. I came and spoke and taught a class. I can look in the audience and see at least about 5 or 6 facilitators who are out in community doing programs. So you are appreciated. But also, what we've been working on is supportive relationships. In terms of youth programming, what does that look like? What does that look like as a community? How do we start to build supportive relationships? And so what we have been trying to do, and something that we did new this year, is that we incorporated a project. We're out in the Newburgh community, and we had a summer program where we had the students had the opportunity to work with elders. And as I sit here and I hear an elder, and he's known in this community, has done amazing work sometimes those voices get silenced, you know what I'm saying, as other people start to filter in. So what we try to do to build community is to mend that intergenerational gap that is happening. So, and we did that where our youth were allowed to work with seniors. They were taught a skill, how to do lawn care service, how to start a garden. There was a garden in the back of the Newburgh Community Center where his daddy garden. Look, and I got the idea from his daddy. And he advocated for that program for students out there. And so we put a curriculum together for the community center, and where our students were able to get paid. These kids want to get paid to learn. They want to earn to learn. And so that is something that we've been implementing not only in the garden or the lawn care service, but in the tech space. As we move forward, our kids have to be informed of what's coming next. So we continue to inform them in tech. And then when we talk about community engagement, one of our things that we were so proud of this year is that we had something called the Scholar Watch. It is in Newburgh. It's another initiative that was started with the Office of Safety, Healthy Neighborhoods. And with that, we got 10 community partners, some of those are in this space today, who were there after school with the kids so they can build relationships. A lot of time we put together programs, go do a 4-week program here, go do a 4-week program there, and the kids build rapport, and after they build the rapport, you're gone. So what does that look like? So we need to make sure that we bring them in, not only people that look like them, but also pillars in other communities. I'll just highlight Armed and Educated. I know they did a lot of work down in Smoketown with their Scholar Watch. So he was very resourceful in coming in and doing conflict resolution training not only the kids, but us too as mentors. So when we talk about youth programming and we have all these organizations, it's like how we continue to educate ourselves. Like he said, I'm not young no more. You know what I mean? I can get in here and still connect with the kids, but also how we making sure our programs and our curriculum is up to date with where the kids are now. But also how we holding ourselves accountable. How we holding other organizations accountable as a community. And I think, that is something that we could look forward to doing. I think we're doing it right now. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully after these conversations, because we all have these conversations, we all be on panels all the time, but we never come up with what's the solution after that. So what is the solution next after we all meet and we get together? Hopefully you get somebody's number in here. Hopefully you set a goal to partner with at least 2 and 3 organizations. And hopefully you pick a community, pick a neighborhood. Pick what block you're going to work on this year, But that's my spiel, and so thank you.
Well, listen, I really appreciate how you answered the question of effective programming. And what I heard throughout your piece is that it's about collaboration. There's about 3 people on that panel that you connected with. And even with your challenge to the room, you said, hey, connect with other folks. So I heard collaboration as a tool in effective programming. Thank you. Insert clap. Okay, so listen, here's the deal. We have you know how the soap operas, they always say, today, so-and-so, Victor Newman will be played by, Dr. Eddie Wood. So you gotta be back in the day to understand that one right there. So listen, Mr. Stachelle Bussey is out here, and I wish she was, because her mama actually watched me when I was 10 years old back down in Southwick, so I really wanted to share that with her. But we have Miss Nanny in her place. And so the question for you, are you ready for this question?
I am.
That's what I'm talking about. All right. Restorative justice and violence interruption. Your question, what does violence interruption look like in practice? And how can restorative justice transform how we address harm in our community? How do these approaches work together to create lasting change?
Okay, so I wrote some notes down over here, and I'm going to think this through with you all. But I think where I want to start is that a lot of folks here have talked about control, and I often think about access when you think about control, like what is accessible to us. And at the Hope Bus, we have this mission of really bridging the gap between what's available and what's accessible. Because oftentimes things are available, they're just not available in our neighborhoods. They're not available with us. And I'll tell this story, which will come back. I get really bad migraines, and so when I get a migraine, I need peppermint essential oil to stop the migraine, and I need to put it under my nose within about 30 to 45 minutes of an onset of a migraine. I was working on 44th Street, 44th and Market, at the Shawnee Presbyterian Church, and I knew time was against me. So I had 45 minutes to find medication. At the time, I was living in St. Matthews, and I was like, do I have time to go home and get the essential oil, or do I want to try to find it? And life-changing day for me, I went to 6 stores and did not find any peppermint essential oil. I found myself standing inside of the Family Dollar, and there was a police officer there, and I just was like, I kind of lost it, crashed out a little bit, as the kids would say, because I was like, this is not fair. Like, why is it? We often talk about this narrative of like, we want to create sustainable change, we want to do all these things, but what happens when what we need is not accessible? When what we need, we can't get to. What we need is a time limit of like, ultimately, if something has happened, how long is it going to take me to get where I need to go? And then I got to thinking even worse. I was like, what if I didn't have a car? What if I couldn't drive to these 5 places? How much longer would it have taken me to get from point A to point B? I still got a migraine. It's still about to take me out for the next 3 days. But also, I still don't have what I need. And so when I think about that, I think about, what does sustainability really look like for our community? What does it look like? Because a lot of times we talk about violence prevention and violence interruption, and we use all these cute words, but what does it mean if my mama don't got no lights? What does it mean if I'm hungry, I'm making an irrational decision because I'm hungry? Even if I have access to food, if it's not available right now, if I have access to food but I can't eat it for the next 4 to 5 hours, I can't think, I can't operate, I can't even begin to imagine the next thing. So imagine in my 12, 13-year-old body, like, okay, I'm gonna do whatever it takes. So I think that's what we really have to think about. We talk about harm, we talk about all these things in community, but when things are not truly accessible, what does that mean? And how do we even make the next choice? So a lot of times us as adults with fully regulated and fully grown minds talk about emotional regulation, and we don't have it. So how can we expect to be able to pass that on to someone when we struggle often with it ourselves? We talked about, I've heard mental health, and I've heard lots of conversations come down this table, but what happens when the resources just aren't accessible? They're available in other neighborhoods. They're available in other parts of the community. They're available to other places in the world, but what happens when we don't have them here? And are we fighting hard enough to make them accessible to our youth? And so I'm gonna end right there.
I definitely appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that. And I love the part where you said we want to promote self-regulation with our young people, but we don't always have it in ourselves. So thank you for putting out there, because I don't think we always recognize that. I always say we ask our kids to do things that we don't want to do. So thank you for sharing. All right. Oh, insert clap. All right. I want to make sure I'm equal opportunity. Everybody going to get some praise for the information that they bring. All right. Now, last but not least, Ms. Zuri Harrison, your question: countering stereotypes of toxic masculinity, media and music industry's influence. Your question is: the media and music industry often glamorize violence and perpetuate harmful stereotypes about Black boys and men. How can we counteract these narratives and promote positive, empowering stories about our community? And it might be a part 2 if you want it later after you answer that one.
Yeah, so that one's a lot. I guess I'll start with the simple answer would be reshaping the narrative, showing our lived experience that while they're diverse, they're also beautiful. This question made me think about a time when I was in college and I had to write a song analysis. The song I chose was If I Ruled the World. That song for me, sorry, I began emotional, okay. That song for me not only showed that as we heal, we're like disrupting the cycles, but it also showed that Black men's masculinity isn't toxic, but it's transformational. Black men, we have to accept the things that they have been through and how they express it, but then it's also how do we find a solution. I guess if we go into the long answer, it would be creating sacred spaces, amplifying their voices, and I had notes too. I may use those. I get really nervous. Thanks, girl. Thanks, girl. But I was saying, I would say that countering media is a multi-layered approach rooted in education, representation, and community engagement. Us continuously creating sacred spaces for self-identity where Black men and boys can affirm their emotions outside of societal norms, promoting their mental well-being. While amplifying those stories, I know a lot of us say that we should hold the media accountable, but in that same breath, we also have to be able to push out those stories of Black men being nurturers, providers, teachers, leaders. And it starts at home, as well as in our communities. Having open intergenerational dialogue, teaching our children their self-worth and critical thinking. I guess an example that I give, my daughter's 8, and she gets on TikTok. Her dad is not, I guess, as, what would be the word? Positive word. Sorry. He's not as attentive as I am when it comes to what she watches, but I also appreciate that at the same time, because that allows my daughter to be exposed to things, but then feel comfortable with coming back and talking to me. Kind of circling back to, I can't remember who said it, but we have to learn our children and they're the next generation. So if it's a certain song that we may not agree with, maybe depicting those words onto what should be taken and how does that make you feel, and allowing them to express themselves in the ways that they feel comfortable. Thanks. But also, I was just gonna say there's nothing that we can't do alone, but there's everything that we can do together. We should not just be changing the algorithm, but changing the scenery. What we see is not only for ourselves, but others. Some examples I give is we're here today. Kristen, this is what Kristen does this for, right? When we go out to different events, we should be sharing it with our friends. We should be sharing the posts. My call to action is for people to remember that Black masculinity is transformational, not toxic, and by celebrating their emotional depth, creativity, and resilience of a Black man, I suggest you use hashtags. Black men are our teachers, Black men are our nurturers, Black men can dance, Black men can cry, Black men deserve luxury, Black men deserve love. Without the stories, we wouldn't know what we've been through as well as where we're going. Also, as of 2022, Louisville's had 189,000 Black residents. I could down this hill that I'm about to say, but it's a lot I could say. With that many people, there's no reason why we cannot support ourselves. Going back to what Mr. Eddie said, if we was to do $1 per week, we could help fund businesses. We could fund these programs ourselves. I want to point out that there's Black Birth Justice. We have our fatherhood program. Get on our CAC. That's our community advisory committee. We have community classes. Your gift deserves to be shown, no matter how small you think it is. Change Today, Change Tomorrow has Sweat in the Home and Garden Club. There's also Armed and Educated, Health Daddy Wow. Brothers Telling Brothers Will Play Cousins. Earl Went Can Teach You How to Skate, Books and Breakfast. And continue to promote, attend, and capture the moment. To change the narrative, we must be the narrative.
Right on. There was a lot that you shared in there. And I tell you what, out of all the information that you shared, I think one of the most salient points that resonated with me is the safe space for not only our men, right? Because a lot of times men don't get that safe space, but also for our boys and our young people. And I think you shared that with the story of your husband and your child. So I just want to say thank you for that. Insert clap. So we're getting to that point where I get to go around and we're going to have the closing thoughts, questions, concerns. We got a little bit of time so the discussion can be a little fluid and organic. Just remember that we don't have a lot of time. So if you wrote something down as we go around for the close, that'd be a great time to share it. But I really appreciate all of you because what I heard, the safe spaces, I'm real big on that. Started a men's group, was gonna do 3, we ended up doing 7, and we're starting back in a couple of weeks because the men needed it. Not that I wanted to do it, but the men needed it. Then also accessibility, right? Making sure that we have what we need. Your component of collaboration, making sure that one of the things we do is connect with each other, right? And I love Ain't No Cavalry Coming. I hold true to that. So if we want to make things happen, we got to make things happen for ourselves. And then to be able to address, right, that right in our community, like our families, almost non-existent, to fill the gap when those men aren't present. Oh man, that is beautiful. And then Dr. Woods, one of the things I know you've been doing for a very long time, and I think you're one of our unsung heroes, is that you go to those spaces. A lot of people don't know you travel the country doing this work. This isn't just Louisville. You're one of our heroes, and I know when you say you go to those spaces, you go to those spaces, right? And then Mr. Johnson, I love what you said about if we're gonna work with these young people, let's include them in the conversation. Let's include them in the process and the planning. So I just love the fact that each and every one of you brought something to this conversation that was valuable. I hope you all got something that you can take back with you and continue to build. Now, with that being said, I'm gonna go around the table. This serves as your these a couple of ideas or thoughts I had, or just the closing remarks. But this serves as that moment. So whatever you do, even if we engage in a conversation, make sure you come back to that conclusion of your time on this panel. Okay. And since we started down here, we're gonna start at the end and work our way back there. Do y'all want to do? Is that okay? Can we do that? Yeah. All right.
I don't really have too much more to say besides continue to connect outside of this room, and we gotta change.
Thank you.
Okay, I think I want to leave a challenge. As a doctoral student, I'm learning that time is really valuable. And so I think we have a lot of conversations, and we all gather in spaces and keep having conversations and conversations and conversations. And I think my ask is, what is tangible? Like, what are we going to leave here today deciding that we're going to do together moving forward? And then how are we going to hold each other accountable to make that happen? So I'm looking for more tangible things in 2025 and moving forward. So tangible actions.
I'll piggyback off of that. And even with the tangible items, how are you being intentional about collaboration and what that looks like? And or as a community, how do we heal? You know what I mean? And even if you are in spaces working with young people, please do the work that you need to do to heal yourself. We see time and time again people's toxic traits inflicted in our youth. And that, you know what I mean, sometimes we be trauma bonding and all that good stuff with the kids and inflicting our trauma. So my call to action is just make sure you get the help that you need for yourself so that you can show up and be in spaces for community.
If I was going to say add anything else to what I was saying, it's just the fact that, like they said, together within our community, we have all the resources that we need. We have everything that we need. And until we decide that we're going to come together, then it don't matter what else anybody else do. I've sit there and I've watched different demographics of people who have had the same obstacles, we're not going to say worse, but you know what I'm saying, have had similar obstacles, and they've banded together and they've risen above. And so just within our community, we're the most talented people in the world. Everybody come to us to look and steal ideas and everything else. And until we start working together, none of this will work. So.
I'll say that the truth doesn't care about your feelings. The truth can give, as I say in the barbershop, 2 fucks about your feelings. We as black folks, we have to come to the reality that we are at war. There's been a war against us since the inception of this country. And what that has caused us to do a lot of the times as black folks, we tend to work in our own silos, where we are individualistic, where, you know, we want to do everything on our own, where we think that somebody's hating on us and we don't have any trust in each other. But I know that there is a African proverb that says, when spiders come together, they can tie down a lion. If we continue to work in our silos, we won't be able to change this narrative. But if we come together, we can change the world. It's so insane that it's time for us to release our egos. The word ego means easing God out. So let's tap within ourselves so that we can begin to change this narrative, because we see what's coming down the pike. We got this orange man about to come into presidency. And things aren't looking too good for us, for our future. So if not us, then who? What are we going to do about it? I mean, the time is now. And what are we going to do in this most critical time in our lives? You know, as a father of 2 young men, it's always on my mind about their future, what their future holds, what the future holds for their friends, for their network. And, you know, that's what I'm doing to challenge the black men in my barbershop and the other barbershops and the barbers that I know, to get our clientele and our parishioners who come to our barbershops to step up. Because it's about that time. Because if we don't do it, we might as well go ahead and fold up shop.
Thank you.
Let me give you a website. www.nmrd.info. www.nmrd.info. You do not have to go through drama by yourself. Drama is what we do.
In the infamous words of Pimp C, smokes. No, I'm joking. These meetings are necessary. These panels are necessary to get at least an understanding if there's a collective mindset and you're not alone in the work that you want to do and the outcomes that you want to see and the liberation that you want to see while you're alive and that you want to leave for the people that you're connected to, young folks in your family, etc. I'm a DJ professionally. I teach DJ classes to young people as well. A lot of people know me for the gun stuff. Armed and Educated is the gun stuff. How do I connect to what you do? Whatever that is. The conversation is great, but sis said a minute, like, now what? So that's what I do. How do I connect with you on whatever that is that you got going on? How do we plug in and become that web that ties down them lions? Thank you.
I tell you what, insert clap. Is that all you got for these folks? That's it? So listen, here's the deal. That concludes, but let's end on a note where if you all are up to it, are you all up to a challenge in real time right now? Yeah. Okay, you all, the audience. You up for a challenge? Yay, nay? Yeah. All right. So let's conclude with each of us standing up one at a time, saying one word or sentence that you got from this distinguished panel that you're going to take with you. One word or sentence. Now remember, I had a professor that said a good sentence is no more than 14 words. So just real short and sweet, one word or sentence that you got from this panel that you can take with, what's that, 3?
I'm waiting on my 3 yet. I'm ready. I'm already saying.
All right. So hold on, here's this. And when all the audiences, now are you all participating? Y'all done or y'all won't participate in this one word? Y'all don't need to because y'all already did it. Okay. When all of you are standing, you all go ahead and stand. When all of you are standing, then this is over. One at a time, and when everybody is standing, we are officially done. Does that make sense? Yeah. All right, so you all go ahead and stand up. One word or sentence, and when we're all done, we're out of here.
Word of sentence. Waste.
Who? Waste of time.
Waste no time.
Waste no time. Okay, good. Waste no time. Okay. Waste no time. Who's next?
Black excellence.
Black excellence. Y'all can clap if y'all want to. Who's next?
Holding safe spaces.
Holding safe spaces.
Yeah, we need healing and we need coalition.
Healing and coalition.
Being an ally.
Being an ally. Whoever wants to go. No pressure. No.
So you can show up healthy.
Be healthy so you can show up healthy. Okay.
Grow a garden.
Grow a garden.
Grow a garden.
Watch what you tell your kids to do that you're not doing.
Ooh, watch what you tell your kids that you're not doing. Well, they were listening, weren't they? Is that it?
You hear me? I do it. Strong black fathers.
Strong black fathers. Okay, KJ.
But we're together. I would say networking. This is a great networking opportunity.
Networking.
Power building.
Power building. Is that it? Is that it?
No, please. Find out what you do best and fill gaps.
Find out what you do best and fill the gaps.
Stay focused.
Stay focused. Very powerful. Thank you.
Wrap it up, Jay.
That's it.